Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Swedish chocolate balls. That's right, I'm going to show you my take on Chokladbollar, which is probably not even close to how it's pronounced, but I tried. And these easy to make, no bake, possibly vegan cookie-like objects is not only delicious, but it's also relatively healthy compared to candy, which means it's the perfect snack for between meals when you're feeling a little bit irritable, or as it's called these days, hangry. Right, you pop one of these into your mouth and you can kiss that hanger goodbye. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with some rolled oats, which I'm going to go ahead and toss into this pan that I'm going to set over medium heat. Because what I like to do before mixing this with the rest of the ingredients is give it a very light toasting. And by the way, my Swedish friends don't do this, and they just use the oatmeal as is. Okay, they don't toast it. I mean, they could. I just don't think they've thought of it. But anyway, what we'll do is keep that moving over medium heat, either by tossing it in the pan or using a spoon, or both. And since we're going to toast this very, very lightly, and it's not really going to change color, okay, it may darken ever so slightly, but we're mostly going to go by feel and smell. Okay, what we're looking for here is something that's hot to the touch, and sort of smells like very lightly toasted grain. And it's almost going to smell a little bit like freshly popped popcorn. And you'll know when it's ready. Okay, so we don't want to go too far, and this is not going to get golden brown, but rather, like I said, just a very, very light toasting. And then once we feel like that's been accomplished, all we're going to do is turn off the heat and let this cool down to room temp. And while we're waiting for that, we can go ahead and get the rest of the ingredients together. And those will include a little bit of white sugar, although some folks prefer brown, or even some coconut sugar, but I prefer the white. And then we'll also add some high-quality, unsweetened cocoa. All right, this is not the sweetened stuff you use to make chocolate milk. And then we will also need a very tiny pinch of salt, as well as, believe it or not, yes, a tiny shake of cayenne, which has been proven scientifically to intensify the flavor of chocolate. And then because we want this snack to satisfy us for a long time, we're going to need to add some fat. So I'm going to toss in some unsalted butter and some coconut oil. And by the way, both of those should be at room temp. And of course, if you want this all vegan, just use all coconut oil. Or if you can't stand the fact that this is even half vegan, you can use all butter. And then we'll go ahead and finish up with a little bit of vanilla extract, as well as a couple tablespoons of strong coffee, or in my case, espresso. And then last but not least, we will add our now cooled oats. And that's it. We will simply take a spatula, or a spoon, or maybe even better yet, your hands, and we will mix this until thoroughly combined, and then maybe even a little more. And I should mention here, if you use the white granulated sugar like I did, because there's really not enough liquid in this to dissolve it, the final product will definitely have a little bit of a gritty texture to it because of the crystals of sugar, which many people enjoy, including myself. But if you did want to enjoy a little bit of a smoother ball, you could use powdered sugar instead, or at the beginning really cream that butter and sugar together, and maybe add that coffee in also at that point, and really work it until those sugar crystals break down. But like I said, I prefer the texture this method produces. But regardless, we're still going to mix this until completely combined, at which point we're going to go ahead and scoop out some portions. And for that, I like to use a sorbet scoop. Okay, in Sweden, they just grab it in their hands and roll it in a ball. And then once we have our mixture portioned, the last step here would be to roll these in some finely shredded coconut. All right, the smaller the better, I think. But if you did want to use the longer shreds or the flake coconut, go ahead. And of course, how big you make these is going to be up to you. And generally in Sweden, these are much bigger, like 2 or 3 times the size. But anyway, you decide. I mean, you are, after all, the Hall of Oats, a ball of oats. But personally, I prefer a fairly petite ball. And then technically, once these are coated in coconut, they're ready to eat. But at room temperature, they are very, very soft. So I'm going to recommend that you chill these first, for at least like 15 or 20 minutes, until they firm up. At which point we can pull them out, as they are now ready to enjoy. And that, my friends, is just a fantastic chocolatey snack. All right, this has a very interesting texture because of the oats, and also a little bit because of that sugar we talked about earlier. And even though we really didn't use that much cocoa, that little splash of coffee we used really brings it out. So these really do seem way more decadent than they are. And while it is true, as I mentioned earlier, these are the perfect between-meal snack, they would also make a very fast and easy breakfast with a cup of coffee when you have to run to that meeting and you don't have enough time to cook yourself something decent. All right, unlike a donut or a Danish, these are actually going to stay with you for a while and keep you feeling satisfied for much longer than those much faster burning processed pastries. So mixing up a batch of these and then keeping a bag in the fridge is a very, very good idea. Which reminds me, if you keep these in the fridge for hours, they're going to get very, very, very firm, as in hard. Which I still enjoy. But it's probably not a bad idea to let them sit out for a little bit to warm up before you eat them, so that they're still cool and firm, but not super hard and cold. But whether you serve these cold or cool, large or small, for breakfast when you're happy, or in the middle of the afternoon when you're hangry at work, because they still haven't fixed that stupid copier. Regardless, I really do hope you give them a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.